What's going on, everybody? My name is Tenebrous Infinite and welcome back to Generation Zero. For today we are going to be analyzing the blast radiuses of all of the explosive trap materials that you can get here in Generation Zero. We're going to start off with the small fuel cell, work our way up through the medium and the large fuel cell, and all the while we're going to be placing down backpacks to mark off the designated blast radius of each of these explosives. So I feel like we're going to find out a lot of very useful information for trap setting today. So let's just jump right into things and start testing things out here. First things first, we're going to be testing off the small fuel cell to see how far its blast radius is. This is one of the smallest explosives in the game, so I can kind of assume that the blast radius for this is not going to be very large. And it wasn't. So we could see that the blast radius went out to roughly about here, maybe about a meter away from it. So we're going to drop down a backpack right here just to mark off the spot that the blast radius reached to. Now next up, let's go with the medium fuel cell. Place it down in the exact same spot here. Set it off. And from that, you could see that the blast radius was much larger, maybe about half a meter longer. So let's kind of take a step back here just to make sure that we can get our backpacks separate. There we go. And now lastly, let's test out the large fuel cell. That's going to do that for the fuel cells in this game. So again, we're going to place it in the exact same spot here. Set it off. Alright, and so from that, we could see that the blast radius got out till about here. Which is a pretty fair dispersion of blast radius. As you can tell between them, they're pretty much evenly separated in distance by maybe about a meter between each of them. So for the small explosive, you can reach up to about a meter. For the medium, you can reach roughly about 2 meters. And for the large, you can reach roughly about 3 meters in a radius. Which I can assume will be essentially the same blast radius as the small fuel cell here. And it roughly was. It seemed like it was maybe a little bit bigger than the small fuel cell. And then next up, let's test out the explosive gas canister here. And the explosion from the explosive gas canister looked to me like it was exploding about the same distance as the medium fuel cell. So you can kind of gauge things in a similar kind of designation of explosions. Now, to talk about the blast power of each of these explosives is a little bit different, but I'll just kind of tell you guys what I've noticed so far from my testing. In which case, the small fuel cell seems to be incredibly weak. It's kind of good enough to kill a runner, but it really is only effective for seekers. The medium fuel cell can kill runners, and the large fuel cell can kill hunters. So that's kind of how you can separate each of the different blast powers of each of these different explosives. The way you can also tell that out is when you set up the minefield, like what I had in my video from yesterday. It would take maybe 3 to 4 landmines to take down a hunter. So roughly, more than likely, the blast power of the mine is the exact same as the blast power of the small fuel cell, meaning that it would require 3 to 4 small fuel cells to actually take out a hunter. And then when it comes to the bigger enemies, it's very hard to tell how much damage the explosives are actually doing to them, but I would assume that you would need anywhere from 8 to maybe 10 large fuel cells to put a decent dent into a tank. I don't think that you'd be able to kill it with that, but I think that you'd be able to do some significant damage to the tank with that many large fuel cells. So it's been pretty hard testing out the blast radius and the blast power of each of these individual explosives. I think that this is something in which case this is the most that we can really gather information-wise based on what we can observe here in Generation Zero. But I think that it's just more stuff that I'm going to be including in my feedback video to the developers about traps here in Generation Zero. I think that it would be incredibly beneficial for us as players to know the actual blast radius of each of these explosives and the actual blast power of each of these explosives. Even if they were just an arbitrary number of like 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, I think that that would go a long way in allowing us to be informed about what these trap materials are and what they do in this game, outside of just does it explode or is it an EMP or does it have compressed air in it? Because those information factors are really good information factors, but I think that in the end, if traps are to become a very efficient and fun thing to use in this game, it would be more useful for us as players to actually know those kind of details. But there you guys go. This one maybe wasn't so much of a fun video to do, but I think that still there's some decent information that we could gather out of this testing here. And it will help you guys for setting up traps in the future, and it's going to help me with designing traps as we go along through the next 15 days of 30 Days of Traps. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed and learned something. And hey, if you guys agree with me that it would be good to have a little bit more practical information about these traps, maybe slap a like on this video. But thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.